Many places in Germany are steeped in history, from the Romans to the Middle Ages. But some cities played a central and deeply dark role in the previous century. In the state of Bavaria, I am visiting a city that feels like a living history book. From a fairy tale-like medieval atmosphere with gigantic city walls to the Imperial Castle towering high above the streets. Whether you want to explore the powerful traces of the Second World War or experience the atmosphere of the Middle Ages, this city has it all. Welcome to Nuremberg, the city of imperial grandeur and a deeply dark history. In the previous video, I took you to the city of Regensburg with its Roman history, beautiful old town, and especially the imposing Valhalla, dedicated to some of Germany's most important historical figures. We also visited Kelheim, home to the breathtaking domed Befreiungshalle. After traveling about 100 kilometers northwest, I have arrived in Nuremberg, the fifth city I am visiting during my journey through Germany. I begin in the southwestern part of the city center, where history is immediately visible. Here stands the Spittlertorturm, one of the four large round main towers located at the corners of the medieval city wall. The tower was originally built as a square structure in the 14th century, but in the 16th century, the arrival of heavier artillery led to major reinforcements, giving it the nearly indestructible appearance it has today. It forms part of the Sfinger, a defensive system in which two gates created an enclosed courtyard designed to slow down and contain attacking forces. Following the western city wall, I walk northward, where it is easy to see how this defensive line was designed. A wide moat is bordered by steep walls and towers, with an additional defensive wall and more towers standing behind it. Because the Pegnitz River flows through the city, a gate across the water was also necessary. For this purpose, the Fronveste was built next to the Schlayerturm. The tower was first constructed on a small island between the river channels around the year 1420. About 70 years later, the waterway itself was also secured with a gate, completing the city's defensive wall system. Next to the gate on the inner side of the city wall stands a chain bridge built in 1824. This bridge, known as the Kettensteg and reserved exclusively for pedestrians, is the oldest surviving iron chain bridge on the European mainland. During the Second World War, the entire complex suffered severe damage. However, thanks to a watercolor painting made shortly after its construction in the 15th century, historians knew exactly how to reconstruct it in its original form, which was completed in 1957. From here, I head a little further into the city to catch a first glimpse of the water tower and the covered bridges from the Maxbrücke. North of this bridge, I arrive at one of the most atmospheric streets in the city, the Weißgerbergasse. This is one of the few places in the historic city center that largely survived the heavy wartime bombings. In the past, wealthy craftsmen worked here, transforming foul-smelling horse and cattle hides into fine white leather. North of this beautiful street lies the New Gate and the Neutorturm. Located close to the Kaiserburg, this complex is also one of the four large round towers, just like the first one we visited. Although its name suggests it is a newer tower, it was actually built around 1370. It received its name because it was added to the outer city wall to help protect the rapidly growing city. The gate controlled an important trade route leading northwest toward Frankfurt and Würzburg. Like the Spittlertorturm, this complex, with its underground chambers, was used as an air raid shelter for residents during the Second World War. Thanks to its exceptionally thick walls, the tower also survived the heavy bombings. From the complex, you can walk directly along the walls into the Burggarten, which forms part of the Kaiserburg. It is a peaceful oasis situated above the city walls, offering beautiful views of both the castle and the surrounding towers. From here, you can also clearly see how the city wall on this side was constructed, complete with its enormous defensive moat. And then the Kaiserburg truly comes into view, the absolute crown jewel of the city. This enormous castle complex stands atop a steep sandstone ridge, providing panoramic views in every direction. The complex actually consists of three parts: the Kaiserburg itself, the imperial city buildings, including the imperial stables, and the Burggrave's castle, of which only the pentagonal tower from the 11th century remains. This tower is the oldest surviving part of the castle. While the exterior appears as a massive fortress, the inner courtyards feel much more intimate. With their half-timbered buildings, they resemble a town square more than the center of a castle. During the Middle Ages, the castle was one of the most important palaces in the Holy Roman Empire. It was not a permanent royal residence, but rather the political heart of Europe and a key center of power and governance. The emperors of the Holy Roman Empire constantly traveled from castle to castle to demonstrate their authority. Inside, you can learn more about the castle's history while exploring its various halls and exhibitions. The complex also contains a double chapel built around the year 1200. At the upper level is the Imperial Gallery, allowing the emperor to enter the chapel directly from the imperial living quarters. In 1356, Emperor Charles IV issued the Golden Bull, the most important constitutional document of the empire. It legally established that every newly elected Holy Roman Emperor had to hold his first imperial diet in Nuremberg. This officially made the Kaiserburg one of the most important political centers in Europe. Back in the freely accessible courtyard, I climbed the Sinwell Tower. Located at the heart of the complex, it was built in several phases between the 13th and 16th centuries. It is one of the few parts of the castle that survived the Second World War almost completely intact, including its roof structure. From the top, you are rewarded with stunning views over both the city and the castle, but the tower also offers a powerful reminder of the wartime destruction. After the war, photographs were taken from this very tower, clearly showing the immense damage suffered by the city. Comparing those images with the view through the tower's windows today reveals not only the scale of the devastation, but also the remarkable reconstruction that followed. I leave the castle and follow the northern city wall, where several smaller and larger towers can be found, including the Black E Tower and the Wehrturm im Schwarzen Eck. This long stretch of wall eventually brings me to the third large round tower, the Laufer Turm. Located on the northeastern side of the Old Town, it was originally built as a slender square gate tower in the 14th century. In the 16th century, it suffered heavy damage, after which the city council decided to surround it with a massive round sandstone shell several meters thick. Even today, the original square tower still stands hidden inside the structure. About 300 meters further into the city, I come across a hidden gem, Tucherschloss. This small city palace was originally built in the 16th century by the Tucher family, one of the most powerful and wealthy families in Nuremberg. The building has 3 floors and was constructed entirely in the Renaissance style. The museum now housed inside contains several masterpieces from the city's golden age, including paintings from the workshop of Michael Wohlgemuth and a famous tableware collection crafted by a Nuremberg goldsmith. When entering from the street, you would never expect that a beautiful Renaissance garden lies behind the building. While the surrounding streets are busy, this place feels like a true oasis of calm where you can take a moment to relax. Within the garden stands the Hirsvogelsaal, which originally served as the family's banquet and dance hall. It was built as a wedding gift, but the marriage itself lasted no more than 18 months. Today, the hall once again displays its magnificent interior, featuring 20 painted linen canvases on the ceiling. Yet there was a period when this building no longer existed at all. During the war, both Tucherschloss and the original Hirsvogelsaal were completely destroyed, reduced to little more than a few bare foundations. Fortunately, historians had already evacuated the interior furnishings, paintings, carved wall decorations, and the entire painted ceiling, hiding them in underground bunkers. The palace was meticulously reconstructed between 1964 and 1968 and opened as a museum in 1969. The Hirsvogelsaal itself was not fully reconstructed until 2000 in the garden of the palace, even though it originally stood several streets away. Because the original artworks were preserved and reinstalled, stepping inside today feels remarkably close to experiencing the hall as it once was, making it a truly unique place to visit. I leave this beautiful little palace behind and continue my route, soon arriving at the Laufer Schlagturm. This tower and gate were once part of the city's first defensive walls, dating back to a time when Nuremberg was much smaller. Following the eastern city wall, I continue southward. Here too, large sections of the old city wall remain intact, along with the opposite side of the river we saw earlier. In the middle of the river lies a larger island that contains several water gates. The northern gate is crossed by a simple wooden structure, while the southern gate, like the one in the west, is built entirely of sandstone. Surrounding them are the Kasemattentor and the Turm Blaues, both dating from around the 15th century. The names of these towers, combining a color and a letter, may sound unusual. However, by the 16th century, the city possessed more than 120 defensive towers, prompting authorities to introduce a systematic coding system so that soldiers and firefighters would know exactly which tower was being referred to. From here, I continue into the city center along the waterfront, making a brief stop at the cinema viewpoint before soon arriving at the Schuldturm. This is one of the few surviving towers from the city's penultimate 14th century defensive wall. After the expansion of the city was completed, the tower was given a new purpose as a city prison. As its name already suggests, it was specifically used to hold people who failed to pay their debts or outstanding fines. Next to it stands the Kreuzigungshof, an iconic hospital complex built across the river with two large arches. Founded in the 14th century by an immensely wealthy benefactor, it became the largest institution for the sick, the poor, and the elderly in the Holy Roman Empire. North of this complex lies the Hauptmarkt, the central and vibrant square of Nuremberg's historic Old Town. Until the middle of the 14th century, this area was a marshy district that was home to a Jewish quarter, including a synagogue. In 1349, during a plague epidemic, the emperor granted permission to clear the quarter, resulting in a massacre. Around 600 Jewish residents were burned alive, and the Frauenkirche and the market square were subsequently built on the site. One of the square's most remarkable landmarks is the 19-meter-high Gothic fountain known as the Schöner Brunnen. Resembling a richly decorated church spire rising directly from the marketplace, it is adorned with 40 colorful stone figures. The structure seen today is a replica of the original 14th century fountain. It was constructed in 1903 after the original, made from soft sandstone, had deteriorated to the point where it was beginning to crumble. During the Second World War, the fountain was encased in a protective concrete shell, allowing it to survive the conflict almost entirely unharmed. On the northern side of the square stands St. Sebaldus Church, the oldest parish church in Nuremberg. Originally built in the early 13th century, it began as a modest Romanesque basilica with two towers and a flat ceiling. During the 14th century, it underwent a major transformation and was rebuilt in the Gothic style. At the center of the church stands the tomb of Saint Sebaldus, after whom the church is named. Sebaldus lived in the region around Nuremberg as a hermit and missionary during the 8th or 9th century. He was officially canonized in 1425, and about a century later was honored with an elaborate bronze shrine that was considered a technical masterpiece for its time. Like much of the city, the church suffered severe damage during the war. The roofs and vaults collapsed, and the towers were also heavily affected. Although the church was officially reopened in 1957, restoration work continued for decades. It was not until the 1980s and 1990s that the exterior had been fully restored to its medieval splendor. At the foot of the castle lies one of the most beautiful squares in the city, the Platz am Tiergartentor. Its name originates from the Tiergarten, which was located outside this gate in the city moat and the surrounding forests. During the Middle Ages, it served as the official hunting grounds and game reserve of the electors. Surrounded by half-timbered houses, the square is also home to the residence of Germany's most famous Renaissance painter, Albrecht Dürer, who lived and worked here until his death in 1528. It is a wonderful place to stand and take in an atmosphere that has truly preserved its medieval character. As I make my way back up to the castle garden that I visited earlier, I come across an opening in the city wall that offers one of the finest views over the square. This spot is a true hidden gem that many visitors overlook, yet it is a place you should definitely visit while you're here. Earlier, I mentioned the underground bunkers where artworks were stored during the war. Beneath the city lies an enormous network of tunnels, some of which can be visited today. I am visiting the historic Felsengänge, a site that is inseparably linked to the city's beer culture. In 1380, a strict law was introduced. Anyone who wanted to brew and sell beer was legally required to own a deep, rock-cut cellar for the fermentation and cold storage of beer. As the city prospered, a vast labyrinth of tunnels and chambers covering thousands of square meters was carved out beneath the city and the castle. These spaces were not only used for beer. During the bombing campaigns of the Second World War, they served as air raid shelters for the city's residents. While the city above suffered devastating damage, the people underground remained largely unharmed. It is estimated that between 20,000 and 40,000 people sheltered in the Felsengänge and the connected bunkers beneath the castle alone. It is remarkable to walk through this maze of tunnels that was used for centuries to store beer and later became the literal lifeline of Nuremberg's population. After emerging from the vast tunnel network, the tour continues at the brewery, where you not only get an insight into the brewing process, but also learn about the production of whiskey, which is another part of the brewery's operations. I leave the northern part of the city and cross the Fleischbrücke. This bridge was built in the 16th century and survived the war completely undamaged. Its name comes from the central meat market that once stood beside the bridge, where butchers inspected and sold their products. From here, you also have a beautiful view of the Kreuzigungshof, which we passed earlier on the opposite side of the river. From the bridge, I continue into the southern part of the city center. This area is primarily known as the main shopping district and is also where most of the post-war development can be found. As a result, it has a very different character from the northern part of the city, where I spent the first half of the video. This part of the city is also home to a magnificent Gothic church, St. Lawrence Church. With its two enormous towers rising 80 meters into the sky, it is the jewel of the southern half of Nuremberg. This three-aisled basilica was first built around the year 1250 and was later expanded several times, including the addition of the Great Hall Choir on the eastern side during the 15th century. Suspended in the center of the choir is a remarkable wooden sculpture by the renowned artist Veit Stoss. Known as the Angelic Salutation, it depicts the announcement of Jesus' birth and is one of the Catholic masterpieces that survived the iconoclastic destruction of the Reformation period. At the southeastern edge of the city center, I arrive at the last of the four great round towers, the Frauentorturm. The tower and gate derive their name from the nearby women's convent and date from the 16th century as well. When Germany's first railway opened in Nuremberg during the 19th century, city planners wanted to demolish the tower and surrounding walls to create more space for traffic around the station. Fortunately, heritage advocates intervened in time, and both the tower and gate were preserved. Next to the tower lies the Handwerkerhof, a small, medieval-style artisan village built within a narrow alleyway. Opened in 1971, it remains one of the best places to experience a medieval atmosphere, complete with local craftsmen, traditional food, and regional beer. I continue along the southern city wall, where the dry, defensive moat is clearly visible. These deep trenches were never filled with water because the sandy soil would have absorbed it immediately. Their depth and width made ladders ineffective and provided sufficient protection against siege equipment such as battering rams. More than 20 towers still stand along the southern section of the wall. The fortifications suffered heavy damage during the war. Of the approximately 120 towers that once existed, only 71 remain today. Before the war, the city walls stretched for around 5 kilometers, of which 4 kilometers still survive. I head back into the city center one final time to visit the Todelmarktinsel. This small island in the middle of the river served as a pig market during the 14th century. Because of the smell and waste associated with the animals, it was considered the ideal location, allowing waste to be carried away directly by the river. On the western side of the island stand the beautiful water tower, the Henker House, and the Henkersteg. Although I briefly passed this spot earlier in the video, it is even more impressive in the afternoon light. The wooden bridge and the covered stone bridge complete one of the most picturesque scenes in the city. And with that, it is time to slowly make my way back to where I started. Passing through broad shopping streets, spacious squares, and alongside remarkable fountains, I take one last opportunity to enjoy everything this city has to offer. The final square I visit is Jakobsplatz, a striking contrast to the rest of the historic city. Here stand St. Jakob's Church and St. Elizabeth's Church, the latter distinguished by its neoclassical style and its impressive 50-meter-high dome. Construction of this church took almost 120 years, and it was not officially opened until 1903. Soon, the Spittlertorturm comes back into view, the tower where I began my day in Nuremberg. Before leaving the city, I make one final stop outside the historic center. While Nuremberg suffered greatly during the war, it also became the city where many of the war criminals were brought to justice. Because the massive Palace of Justice remained largely undamaged and was directly connected to a prison, it was chosen over cities such as Berlin as the location for the trials. Nuremberg was the city where Hitler signed the Nuremberg Laws and staged his vast propaganda rallies. Yet it also became the place where that same regime was ultimately judged and condemned. Unfortunately, the Memorial Museum is already closed by the evening, but even from the outside it remains a powerful and significant historical site. Nuremberg truly surprised me. With its many kilometers of city walls and countless towers still standing guard over the city, it feels as though you are wandering through the Middle Ages. Whether you climb the imposing tower of the Kaiserburg, explore the history of the Second World War, or discover the centuries-old tunnels and rock-cut cellars beneath the city, Nuremberg offers an extraordinary journey through time. The city has experienced its darkest moments, yet it rose from the ashes like a phoenix. In the next and final video of my journey through Germany, I will take you to the historic city of Bamberg, another destination full of surprises. There, we will visit the remarkable town hall built directly in the middle of the river and the magnificent Imperial Hall dating from around 1700. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter of my journey and future travels. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.